This is the future you reach from your choices in youth. It's currently 7 a.m. in the morning in the town of Medan. We see in the streets it's bustled with cars, motorcycles, and buses. We see also in the street sidewalk that it's filled with students walking to the school ready to study. And then we see to a house belonging to a student named Anthony. Anthony, please wake up. You'll be late for school. We hear the loud voice of a mother trying to wake up her son. All right, I'm getting ready, said Anthony to his mother. He was already wearing his school uniform, but he didn't wear his tie, he didn't wear his belt, and his clothes were still dirty since he didn't wash them. Then Anthony's mother then said, Anthony, why haven't you washed your clothes? You should have washed them yesterday, or at least told me. But Anthony didn't really care. He answered, it's all right, Mom. I just thought it'd be a hassle, so I didn't tell you. Anthony also had black lines under his eyes since he was playing games all night and didn't sleep. Anthony then decided that he would just skip breakfast because he just thought that since he's already late to school, why would he need it? So he basically prepared his stuff and was about to go to school until his father stopped him in the living room. His father then stood and said, Anthony, why is it that you haven't worn your tie and your belt? And why are your clothes still dirty? I told you should have washed them. Why are you making this so difficult? But Anthony just looked bored. Just said, it's fine. I can clean my clothes after school, right? But his father just became even more furious. He then yelled again, oh, really? Then what about breakfast? Are you just going to skip it? You should have woken up sooner. I told you not to play games all night. But Anthony just didn't care either. So he just said, whatever, Dad. I can do whatever I want. You're not the boss of me. Anthony then took his bag, left the house quickly, and closed the door with a huge slam. Then we see that Anthony's mom and dad were sad to hear their son's words. The mother then said to the father, it's okay, dear. I'm sure he can change. We just have to be patient, and we also just have to support him. The father sighed and said, yeah, I know, he's still just a teenager, but I want the best for him. I just feel worried about him. I don't want him to go to the wrong path, and I want the best for him. I just wish that he would understand that. His father then decided that he should go to work. He said his farewells to his wife and got on his car to work. Then we see in the street sidewalk that Anthony was walking towards his school. Anthony was just thinking about how annoying his mom and dad was. But then he suddenly saw one of his friends from the motorcycle gang. As it turns out, Anthony here is friends with a few people from the motorcycle gang. They usually spend their time by causing trouble or even skipping school and smoking. And Anthony was pretty much close with them. One of his friends saw Anthony and said, hey, Anthony, what's up, man? You want to hang out? Anthony wanted to hang out too, but he knew that he would just get into trouble with his mom and dad and the teacher if he was skipping school all over again. So he said, sorry guys, I'd love to, but I gotta get to school or else my parents would just yell at me again. So Anthony went to school, but he was already late. So he was reprimanded by the school guard and then yelled again by the school teacher. But he just didn't care because honestly, he didn't really think it was important. And he didn't even pay attention in class. And as time passed by, it was already in the end of the fourth period. And break time had just ended. Anthony hadn't been paying attention for the entire class. He would just didn't care. He would just look away. And he would just act casual. And at the fourth period, the teacher was already preparing for the next lesson. But suddenly, an announcement came from the speaker saying, attention, attention, to the student of class 10, Science 5, Anthony. Please report to the teacher's office. Bring your school bag and your school equipment. Anthony was confused as to why he was being called, but he just thought, if I can skip class thanks to this, I'm all fine with it. So Anthony went to the teacher's office, only for a teacher to walk up to him and then say, Anthony, your father was hospitalized from a terrible car crash accident. Your mother just called us and wanted us to tell you. Anthony was speechless. He was confused, and he did register what the teacher had said for a second. But when it did, he suddenly said, "Wait, my father? What happened to him? What else did my mother say? Which hospital is he in?" The teacher then answered, "Well, he's currently in Apollo Hospital, and your mother told us that your father's condition is pretty bad, so you should hurry there. Do you have money for your taxi?" Anthony nodded and quickly left towards the hospital. When Anthony arrived at the hospital, he quickly went into his father's hospital room and saw that his mother was crying beside his father. His father was bandaged all over, and he honestly looked really terrible. So Anthony went to the nurse and quickly asked, "Ma'am, what's my father's condition? Please tell me he's going to be okay." But the nurse looked sad and said, "I'm sorry. Many of his bones are broken and several of his organs was crushed in the car crash. And we're just preparing for surgery for him, but we can only hope that he can hold on until then." Anthony was devastated hearing that. He stood beside his father begging that he would be saved. His father then opened his eyes and asked Anthony to come closer. Anthony did so, and his father said, "Anthony, please don't waste your life. Don't waste your youth. I know that you want to do what you want, but you need to do the things that you need for your future as well. I'm sorry for yelling at you so many times, but I did so because I was worried, because I care for you. So please understand that and take care of yourself and your mother." And so Anthony cried hearing that and said, "I'm sorry, Dad. I'm sorry for not listening to your advice. I'm sorry for being lazy and yelling at you. So please, don't leave me. Don't leave Mom. Don't leave us. Keep fighting." But his father's eyes started closing. The heart monitor slowed down until it stopped, and all we could hear was a long beep. The doctor and nurses came in quickly trying to help, but it was all for nothing as Anthony's dad had already passed away. And so after that, in 1 week, for a week, Anthony was depressed and sad. He didn't care for anything, not school, not his friends from the motorcycle gang. He didn't even smoke or even play games. He was just depressed until one day, his mother came into his room and knocked. The mother came inside the house, inside of Anthony's room, and brought tea and bread. She said, "Anthony, you should eat and drink this. You haven't been getting enough food." Anthony then looked away and said, "It's okay, Mom. I'm not hungry. You don't have to worry about me." His mother became sad hearing that, and so she sat on Anthony's bed. They were quiet for a few seconds until his mother asked, "Are you okay?" Anthony immediately broke down and said, "Of course I'm not okay, Mom. How can I be when I know how much it hurts to lose Dad? I betrayed him. I was lazy and I didn't even make him proud. I yelled at him. Honestly, I feel like he must have hated me. And you should too." But his mother quickly stopped him and said, "No, neither I nor your father could ever hate you. We both love you. And we were worried that you would lose your way. That is all." Anthony then cried on his mother's shoulder for the entire night and promised that he would do better in the future. Since then, Anthony had started studying seriously. He raised his ranks through the class, And then he even stopped being friends with the people in the motorcycle gang and started making better friends at his school. He kept on studying, and when he graduated, he was also accepted to a famous university. And now, as we look back to his house, we see that Anthony was packing his stuff inside his bag, preparing himself to go to his university's dorm. Anthony looked sad for some reason, and when his mother came into his room, she saw him and asked, "Anthony, what's wrong? Do you have something in your mind?" Anthony then looked to his mom and asked, "Mom, I'm going to be leaving for a long time. My university is far away, and I won't be able to see you often. Will you be okay?" His mother smiled and said, "It's okay. I just want the best for you, and right now you have to focus on your dream." Anthony smiled back and then asked, "Do you think Dad would have been proud if he saw me today?" His mother smiled brighter and said, "Of course, I feel proud of you, and your father would have been the proudest father in the world as long as you tried your best." Anthony thanked his mom and said his farewell. He went to his university and continued his studies until at one point, Anthony thought back to everything that's happened that led him to this. And he said, "Thanks, Dad, for everything that you've done for me. I promise to lead a better life for my future."